Welcome to Fan for Racing Radio. I'm Fan for Racing Sharon, and joining me today are Taz and Jay Huseman, and we are here for the In-Season Challenge Fantasy Preview for Round 3. And I think this is going to be, in a lot of respects, some of the toughest bracket for us to, well, not that the others weren't tough, because I think we all busted our brackets in the first one. But as far as choosing, I think this is going to be a tough one to choose. So we'll see how this goes.
Well, and since Taz, you weren't here, Sharon and I kind of talked about it. I wanted to ask you a couple questions quick before we get into the individual brackets. Like she said, maybe it's tougher because we don't have what we thought, which maybe we made it tougher with that. But, thought is the favorites, easy, pick the number 1 seed versus the number 32. So we're down to it where there's a lot of the middle numbered seeded drivers. Also with that, being that there is only 2 in the top 10 as they were seeded, let me be clear on that. I use the term top superstars, if you will, of Tyler Reddick and Ty Gibbs. Everybody else is kind of middle of the pack. Has the bracket and this in-season challenge lost any enjoyment or excitement for you? So I wanted your input on those two things quick before we get started.
I think after Atlanta, I kind of lost a little bit of excitement about it. But then watching the Chicago street course and seeing Bubba and Bowman go at it, which that was the battle pretty much all race long. That made me get excited again to make me think we might see something like that again for Sonoma. And I hope maybe for Dover and Indy, depending on the situation. I mean, this tournament is obviously different from other head-to-head bracket tournaments that we're accustomed to with other sports. Because obviously, as we saw with Chicago, you get a DNF, then the other driver basically moves on. So,
right.
And as the broadcast word, it's kind of like the election race. They call the race early.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They did make that reference.
But I think there's a few matchups here that could go either way. I mean, shoot, and I'll say it.
Don't call him yet. Don't call him yet.
I'll say it later because you know where I'm going with this, Sharon.
I do. Okay, Jay, ask yourself the same question you asked Taz.
Well, the bracket itself, obviously, my picks, as far as that, excited as far as bragging rights. I didn't put any money on it, but bragging rights, yeah, that all went out the window. Sharon, you had me from the get-go. After the first round, you had 6 left. I only had 5. Like I said, I'm down to 1. Taz, you said you were down to 1 of your original picks going through the bracket. And it's different, and I like that. And that, to me, of the excitement and interest in it is different because it is not your top Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs, Penske with Ryan Blaney. Your favorite driver's been knocked out. I'll use Denny Hamlin's line. But I do find it intriguing and interesting to see the drivers that are there and the recognition they're going to get. As I said from the beginning, and I didn't stand by it, Ryan Preece was one when the bracket was originally announced. I said might do good in a bracket like this. Preece, Buescher, Elliott, and Bubba Wallace. And they were all still in it last week. This week, it's just Preece that's left. But those are the drivers that are consistent. You don't have the win or wreck, checkers or wreckers, which you got to have because you got to have 5 solid weeks. You can't have that DNF like you mentioned because then you're done. I'm still finding some excitement in it. It's not because it's my favorite driver, obviously, or my top pick, but I do still find the excitement in it. And I know Sharon and I talked about this. As the tournaments progress, I think the broadcast has done more of focusing on it. And I think that does make a huge difference. We had a great scenario of Bowman and Wallace, as you mentioned. Literally, they could focus on it because it was an on-track battle. It was the matchup. And so there was focus on it that played well into the scenario.
Yes, and I agree. First, during the race, the very first race at Atlanta, my heart sunk every time one of my picks bit the dust, if you will. and my heart was sinking each time one of my drivers got sunk, and I knew that they weren't going to be moving on. Starting with Ryan Blaney, I think he was the first one out because I had him go. I felt like he was going to go all the way. But I love the idea that some of these drivers that don't normally get any attention are going to get some fantastic attention with this. And I think that's going to be a very, very good thing. And I'm kind of happy that NASCAR's doing it. I know that there's a learning curve that's going on here as well. So we might, and I say might in parentheses, we might see some changes or adjustments, modifications, whatever you want to say, in the round 2 of the in-season challenge. And by that, I mean next year's in-season.
What track, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. But I hope they do it again. Because I think there is some merit to it. I'm wondering if one of the things that they might want to change is go head to head with football, because a lot of times we compete with football when football starts, and maybe do a head to head challenge going into the football season. So
you're saying run the tournament against.
Yes.
Wow. I know Chris kind of mentioned that, but see, but then you run into, if you recall, Chris talked about that, then you're kind of taking the attention away from the playoffs itself if you get any closer to the playoffs. Yeah.
You're right.
I like that idea, though. I mean, that was a good thought of that's when they need the ratings, is going head to head with football. So yeah, it was a good thought, but I think that's kind of why, is to not push up against the playoffs itself.
But I think the reason why they chose this specific time frame is because usually NASCAR has the viewership ratings to start the season. Then, like, when you start dwindling in the middle, you kind of lose people because, I mean, obviously there are other things like graduation, school's out, and other things too. And then once the end of the season, like towards the end of the regular season and towards the playoffs, that's when your viewership goes back up to how the beginning of the season was. So I feel like this is kind of helping with the viewership in terms of, let's try to keep a consistent flat line at least, versus kind of like one of these little bowl scoop type of deals.
Right. I think both of those are valid points. And I think it also has to do with the TNT run of the schedule. They wanted to promote TNT, and TNT, I think, is the one that's really done the most promotion of the in-season challenge. So I don't know if it was their idea or where this originated from, but I think part of it was to promote TNT and to remind people that that's where you can find this race. Is that
remember Denny Hamlin takes credit for it. It was his idea.
Know, he does.
Yeah.
He definitely did advocate for it, and I applaud him for it because it's here now and I like it. So yeah, I got to give Denny Hamlin that prop. He definitely was one of the first drivers to really push it. The other thing I wanted to add, I forgot of talking about it, and Sharon, you kind of hit on it, some of the drivers that are getting attention. Yes. I think as we get closer here, you may see some strategies, especially from some of those teams, and I'm going to use 2 specifically, maybe 3. Ty Dillon, Zane Smith, and John Hunter Nemechek. We haven't seen them be weekly contending winners to get themselves in the playoffs. So these last 3 or even 2 races, they may change where their entire strategy is focus on their head-to-head matchup. Because that's about all they got to go for at this point. So I think we may see some of that. And I said it initially of the latter rounds when hey, I'm really close to this million. It's not a 1 out of 32 chance anymore. It's 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 8 at this point. But some of these teams, I think, may start watching that a little more closely and possibly truly strategize their race around that. And I'll just take the
as they learn more about that strategy and how to strategize, it'll get
right. I mean, they don't want to, if they have a shot at a win in the playoffs, they're obviously not going to give that up by any means. But take Ty Dillon and Alex Bowman this weekend. If Ty Dillon doesn't have, and that team doesn't have a shot at truly winning the race, they could go with a strategy of, hey, let's just either follow what strategy Bowman's on, stay with him so we're around him in contention, or if they know that team's going for the win and it's not going to work, we got to go the opposite. So if they pit, we don't. If they don't, we do. You'll have, Larry McReynolds always says you can't, if you're doing the same thing and following somebody, you're going to stay following them. So you do the opposite. I think some of these teams that maybe, again, don't have the true shot at winning might start adapting some strategies like that of, hey, we're just going to do the opposite and go for this bracket win.
I think Jay kind of puts it in a good perspective because, yeah, a lot of these drivers are basically chasing after points and chasing after wins to try to make a case for the playoffs as we approach that point. But at the same time, if they're in a chance of where they're not going to win the race entirely, they're only going to focus on that head-to-head matchup. So, as you had mentioned, Ty Dillon, Bowman, if Bowman's doing strategy A, Ty Dillon's going to do strategy B instead of focusing on trying to win the race because the race ain't going to be won with whatever you're on. So you're just going to focus on that guy.
Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the matchups are moving into the third round. This is the first round, second round. We are at this round, the third round on both sides. So we've got Ty Dillon versus Bowman. We've got Nemechek versus Jones and their teammates. Then you've got Priest versus Reddick, and you've got Gibbs versus Smith. Okay, so these are the roundups here that we're looking at. These are the matchups right here with this furthest out. Now, I'm going to pull up some head-to-head stats here. Here's some head-to-head matchups that we're going to take a look at. And the first one that they've got here is the bottom one, which is Ty Gibbs versus Zane Smith. And Gibbs eliminated Justin Haley, who was seeded 27th at Atlanta. He eliminated Allmendinger, who was seeded 22nd at Chicago. Smith eliminated Austin Cindric, who was seeded 19th at Atlanta, and Chris Buescher, who is the number 3 seed at Chicago. If you follow the road, Gibbs has an average finish of 15.37 in 3 road course races this season, while Smith's average finish is 26.0. Gibbs has 5 consecutive top 15 finishes, including 2 top 5 results. The winner advances to meet Ryan Preece or Tyler Reddick. So again, here's your head-to-head look. This is the head-to-head look at these drivers. Your thoughts about the Gibbs-Smith matchup?
So this is an intriguing one, honestly, because if you look at stats-wise, both of these drivers have raced Sonoma twice and twice apiece. Zane Smith, for an average start to finish, is a 25th. On the other side of the flip coin, you have Ty Gibbs, who has an average start of 8th and an average finish of a 27.5 here at Sonoma. So this is a flip of a coin. If I'm calling an upset here, this is it. I would take Zane Smith over Ty Gibbs here.
All right. We're going to be controversial right from the get-go. No, this is the other one. I think if you were reading from what Jayski had on the notes, which we shared the other night, Smith's best finish at Sonoma is 16th. Gibbs is 18th. When we look at similar tracks, that's on one of the stat sheets. It's 6-4 in favor of Ty Gibbs. So a slight edge there. 1-1 on this track, as we mentioned. And then this season, 11-8. Again, just slightly in Ty Gibbs' favor. So I think, Taz, I think you're right. And this certainly could be the upset, if you will. But this is one where I got to buck against the numbers. Just with Ty Gibbs, I think he's getting back to the form we saw in his rookie year of he's really close to getting his first win, the momentum he's got. As I said, I had him on my original. He is the one pick I have from my original bracket, and I had him going to the Final Four. So I'm going to stick with him, but especially after the way we've seen the bracket play out already, I could see this being one where Zane Smith does get by him, but I am sticking with Gibbs as far as my pick.
Okay, I'm going to show you what I'm looking at here as far as what I like to look at. If you look at the box score for Sonoma Speedway for these drivers, I look at Zane Smith right here. Okay, if I follow that across, his average finish comes in at 25.0 for the track. And that's with 2 races. And the thing that kind of struck me about all of these guys is none of them are in the top. The closest is Tyler Reddick. If you look at where Ty Gibbs is on this list, here's Zane Smith. Okay, right here's Zane Smith. Ty Gibbs is above him. His average finish is a 27.5, which is what compared to the 25.0 that we show for Smith. But Ty Gibbs also has the higher box score of the drivers. And average start, he starts pretty well. His average start is at an 8.0 compared to Zane Smith at a 25.0. Zane Smith isn't really advancing, okay, through the race. But Ty Gibbs isn't really advancing either. He's got the 27.5 average finish. And they're both going 2 races to 2 races. So both of these drivers are head-to-head, 2 races to 2 races. It's hard for me to do this one. I think you're right. I think Zane Smith can upset in this case, and Ty Gibbs could end up losing this. But if I look at this information, I'm going to go with Ty. I'm going to give Ty Gibbs the edge on this because of this box score, 57.8 compared to 49.9. It's only 2 races, but his stats across this board tend to be a little bit better.
All right, I'll be the oddball in this case.
Okay, yeah.
I like it that way.
You like it that way? Well, you could very well be right, though.
Exactly. You heard both of us say that's not like it's a wild, you're a crazy for picking them. This one really could be. And I do lean back to Mexico City this year on the Cup side and Ty Gibbs' history of road course racing in the Xfinity as well. You know, his first wins came at Daytona Road Course. That's kind of why I lean towards that. Like I said, the stats support you, Taz, although not by much. It is, like you said, kind of the coin toss. But the stats definitely actually do favor Zane Smith. So we'll see how it plays out. But, yeah, you might look like the only smart one out of the bunch.
But we both agree that it could happen. We all agree that it could happen. Okay, our next matchup here is the number 8 of Alex Bowman versus the number 32 seed of Ty Dillon. How they got here. Bowman eliminated Joey Logano, who was seated in 25th at Atlanta, and Bubba Wallace seated 9th at Chicago. Dillon eliminated the number 1 seed, Denny Hamlin at Atlanta, and the number 17 seed, Brad Keselowski at Chicago. Matchup of opposites. Bowman is one of 2 drivers to finish in the top 10 in all 3 road course races this season. Shane Van Gisbergen is the other. Dillon has not finished better than 20th in the 3 road course races this year. Bowman has 7 top 10 finishes, including a win in his last 11 races on road courses. Dillon has never finished better than 15th in 28 Cup Series road course starts. Upset special. The driver with the worst seed has won 11 of the 24 matchups so far, including Dillon's 2 wins. Winner advances to meet John Hunter Nemechek or Eric Jones in this case. This one looks like it's lopsided. Jay, why don't you go first on this one?
Well, and again, I hate to say it, but it was the number 32 seed. Realistically, when you look at Colleague Racing and that number 10 team, I mean, this was lopsided from the beginning. He was matched up against number 1 Denny Hamlin. Wreck at Atlanta advanced him. Then he went against the number 17 of Brad Keselowski, which I think Brad should have been ranked a little bit higher, but there again, an issue. This is one where if you look at it realistically, the driver of the 10, Ty Dillon, didn't outrun or beat them. They beat themselves and had an issue and didn't finish the race. Thus, The benefactor of that is the number 10. Now, in a tournament like this, is that a legit move on? Yeah, it is. Okay. So, and that's where I said here, I think when it comes down to it with Alex Bowman, they may have to strategize for it. I don't know that at Sonoma we'll see that multi-car pileup or your top seeds all having problems as we have in the first two events. So I think this one's going to be a little harder to overcome. Ironically, again, you would have thought being going against the number one seed right from the get-go would have been the hardest to overcome. It's not. It's great on him. This is one that I like, the fact that the broadcast and everybody is talking about that number 10 team and Ty Dillon. They're getting attention. I hope it brings in sponsorship for them and it helps them out. Because, again, I know they aren't a top contending team. Alex Bowman is a Hendrick Motorsports machine. At one point was top 4-5 in the standings. I know he has dropped down to the 12th and 13th spot, which puts him on the bubble due to wins. So, but we have seen kind of that resurgence of they went through a little bit of a lull. And I think we see him back on the upswing with that. So again, if you're looking for the upset, obviously Ty Dillon is the king of upsets right now. But Alex Bowman is got to be the pick, especially, again, go back to road course racing. He's quiet and subtle about it, but Alex Bowman is one of the top, and I'll say top as in probably top 10 ranked road course racers that people just don't know because he's not flashy and necessarily winning the races and leading laps and everything else, but gets those finishes when it comes down to crunch time. So I'm going Alex Bowman.
Okay, Taz.
So this is, to me, this is kind of where luck can favor you to an extent. We've seen it happen. And Jay, I'm sure you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about with this. And Sharon knows because I mentioned this to her when we did reviews. Ty Dillon, to me, reminds me of the year Florida Gulf Coast was a 15 seed and went all the way to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. I don't remember exactly which round they went to, but they knocked off the biggest teams in NCAA history to get as far as they went. So Ty Dillon, you may be having that Florida Gulf Coast luck charm, but I'm sorry, luck runs out somewhere, and you're going against Alex Bowman, who finds a way, especially on road courses. And Alex Bowman is one of those drivers who, yes, he's in top equipment with Hendrick and everything, but at the same time, like, Alex Bowman has no quit in him. And he knows that there's an objective, and he's going to find a way to achieve that objective no matter what. And as you mentioned, Sharon, Bowman's got the act for road course races in Sonoma. He's got 2 top 10s and 8 Sonoma starts. And Ty Dillon doesn't really have much to show for it here, so I'm favoring Bowman here. And Ty Dillon's not knocking out my favorite driver.
Oh, she's not knocking out.
Okay. And here's what I'm looking at. Do you see where Ty Dillon is ranked here? Okay, here's Ty Dillon right here. His average finish is at 23.0, which really isn't that bad when you compare it to like Zane Smith and Ty Gibbs. He's actually better than both of those guys, but he's not matched up with them. His 2 races, he's at a 44.9 box score. Let's see where Bowman is. And I think this supports everything that you were just talking about. You're going up against a guy that is just really good on the road courses. His average finish is at a 15.3. He's got a box score of 76.6. And I think the dream run for Ty Dillon ends here because you're up against one of the better road course drivers. Now, that doesn't mean to say that something can't happen and Alex Bowman gets knocked out early. But if we look at the stats, and that's what we've been doing, is looking at which driver has the best chance. If he gets through this one, I'm going to take him all the way because he's got a horseshoe somewhere if he gets past Alex Bowman. So
all right, so that one's Bowman across the board.
Yeah, that one's Bowman across the board. We've got John Hunter Nemechek versus Eric Jones, the number 12 seed versus the number 20 seed. How they got here? Nemechek eliminated Josh Berry, 21 seed at Atlanta, and Chase Elliott, the number 5 seed at Chicago. Jones eliminated Ross Chastain, the number 13 seed at Atlanta, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the number 29 seed at Chicago. This matchup pits Legacy Motor Club teammates against each other. At least the organization knows that it's going to have one driver among the final four in the race for the $1 million. The question is it going to be John Hunter Nemechek or is it going to be Eric Jones? In the last 8 races, Nemechek and Jones have finished better than the other 4 times. That means it's pretty much down the middle. The winner advances to meet the winner of the Ty Dillon and Alex Bowman matchup. Here's their stats head to head. Okay, so you see that. So Jay, it's your turn, I think, to go first on this one.
No, you get to go first. I was waiting for this. You got to go first. And I say got to, because this is, to me, this is the hard one. So you go ahead, Sharon.
Okay, I got to go with, this is the 2 teammates, right?
Yep.
Neither one of them have a good, John Hunter Nemechek is way down here. His average finish at this track is 29.0. His driver rating is 31.5. That's in one race. Okay. That's something that's important because when we look at Eric Jones' stats, he's got 3 races with a 46.1 driver rating. His average finish, though, is at 23.4 versus the 29.0 that John Hunter Nemechek had. Both of them have been running fairly well. I'm going to give it to Nemechek. Okay, Jay.
You mentioned it. They're teammates. Okay. They're going to share information, what each other's got. So the car setup for this race could be identical. And it's a good news, bad news storyline. You mentioned it. The Legacy Motor Club, as of late, been putting both cars in or near the top 10. Very much on the upswing as far as climbing in the points and looking to make the playoffs. Good news is one of them will be in the final 4, and I don't know who would have had that, as they like to say on their bingo card, of Legacy Motor Club being an organization to have one in the final 4. However, to get there, they got to eliminate their other one. And again, to have seen this matchup come together on a bracket to begin with, I wouldn't have been able to envision that. And here we have it. So here's one of the things I really do like about this tournament. Like I said, that Legacy Motor Club is going to be one of the final 4 organizations in this tournament. So with all that, I was kind of stalling on making my pick. No,
I know. Well, my heart says Eric Jones. I really like Eric Jones. He's such a great guy. But I don't know. I think Nemechek's been running just that little bit better. And I've seen him race on the road courses in Xfinity Series.
And there you got my other point, Sharon. I really thought heart-wise, if you were going to go, that's why you went with Nemechek, because I know we followed him all the way through the Truck Series and Xfinity. Yeah. I also am going to go with John Hunter Nemechek. And the reason I look at is, on the one I'm looking at, it shows similar tracks, that slight edge of 5-3 when it comes to road course racing. Having known his history through the Truck Series as well as the Xfinity, he is a solid road course racer. I just don't recall, to my memory, seeing that out of Eric Jones. So that's where I am giving to it to Nemechek, and that is based on history in other series. I know this is the Cup Series. Neither one of them have shown great prowess at the Cup level, although Nemechek, again, has got a limited starts when it comes to that. But, yeah, I got to lean towards John Hunter.
Okay, Taz. Are you going to agree or are you going to be the rebel?
I am so glad y'all picked John Hunter Nemechek, because you know what? I'm going to get a barn burner for you. Because Eric Jones, when you put him in the dumps and you put him against the wall, what does he do? He comes out flashing.
No.
And I'll use a prime example, Darlington. Not only has he done it with Joe Gibbs, he's also done it with Legacy, Petty, wherever he was running for at the time in that 43. Eric Jones, you're the veteran guy. I'm putting you on this one. I got faith in you. Eric Jones all the way.
You might be right. I really, my heart wants to go there.
And that's another one. You can't argue against the opposite pick. I mean, that's what it's so tough. So yeah, you're either gonna look real good, Taz, or
hard if I'm right though. But I'm going to be happy if I'm wrong.
And that's why I say that's the storyline here. I am thrilled for Legacy Motor Club. Again, we look at, if you think about it, Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, and Penske being the top three right now. I think we can all agree on that. Would have thought they would have filled up the final four. Legacy Motor Club is going to have one of their drivers in that. I love to see that.
I might regret that one. Okay, Ryan Preece, the number 15 seed versus Tyler Reddick, the number 23 seed. How they got here? Well, Preece eliminated William Byron, 18 seed at Atlanta, Noah Gragson, the number 31 seed at Chicago, and Reddick eliminated Kyle Larson, the number 10 seed at Atlanta, and Carson Hocevar, the number 26 seed at Chicago. Road course ringer, the next gen era, Reddick is tied for the most road course wins, 3, and Poles also at 3 and ranks second in top 5 finishes with 9 and top 10 finishes at 14. Preece has 5 top 10 finishes in the last 8 races. That's tied for the most top 10s during that span. The winner advances to meet Ty Gibbs or Zane Smith, whoever wins that matchup. So here's the head-to-head. Taz, I think it's your turn.
Well, this is more, when you look at the head-to-head best finishes deal, or the graphic we're looking at, this is kind of like, this is dead even, pretty much. But when you give yourself the challenging part of picking a winner here, obviously you're going to look at the road course guy being Tyler Reddick. But a lot of times that I don't think some people realize is that sometimes short track racers have that act for road course racing because they understand the throttle control, the tight braking, shifting through the gears and everything. So again, this is where Ryan Preece could pull a heck of an upset. And I know seating wise, it shows Tyler Reddick will upset Ryan Preece. But if you look at skill wise, this is kind of Preece upsetting Reddick. But in this case, as much as I would like to go with the guy from the Northeast area from where I'm from, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick is just too good on road courses. You see very little errors and mishaps for him. And with how the whole situation of 2311 with the court dealing and NASCAR deal, you know they're going to come out swinging for the fences and whatnot to put it into the face of NASCAR. So I'm going Tyler Reddick here.
Okay, Jay.
Well, this one's going to be kind of funny because I'm going to argue for one driver and then pick the other, I think. When you look at it, any other given year, I think Reddick would have been in the conversation to actually go even maybe to the Final Four and be one of the top contenders throughout this entire tournament. When you looked at this season, though, the 45 of Tyler Reddick just hadn't shown that top-level fight in him yet this year. On the flip side, Ryan Preece, and I said it before the tournament started, Ryan Preece was one of those that being a solid, get a top 10, grinded out driver could go all the way. And I'd yet to actually pick him. So that's why I said that's kind of ironic. But, and it's going to happen here again. Right now, when I look at it, again, I still think Preece and the RFK, they as an organization have been putting all 3 cars in the top 10 in the last several weeks, minus Chicago and Atlanta due to incidences. But they had been on a streak of that. This is the best equipment. When we look at the stats, Ryan Preece, go back in history of what was he driving and who is he driving for. And I'm not going to get into that and talk about that, but this is his best situation that he's been in, I think, and getting support. And he has realistically been leading RFK when it comes to that. All that said, it is a road course. you got to go with Tyler Reddick. I mean, I can't see going against it at this point. And Reddick has been on that at least for a couple of races, backed up to where I think he should have been to begin with to start the tournament. You know, again, you mentioned he actually did knock off Kyle Larson, and that is one at Atlanta where I think was a tough matchup because Larson doesn't necessarily run well at Atlanta or the super speedway style tracks. So I had Reddick knocking off Larson anyway. That one wasn't due to a bad situation or a wreck, if you will. So, like I said, writing it down on paper, I am going with Reddick. However, Priest, I think, is one of those. If he is the one with $1 million in Indianapolis, I'm going to say I told you so, even though I didn't have it in writing.
You're going for the yeah, you that's a couple of times you haven't picked him. Okay. Yeah. I think you only picked him once so far.
Yeah, that first round.
Okay, now look at this. Tyler Reddick is the number one here at an 81.9 seed here. 3 races. He's got 3 races compared to the others. 25.3 is his average finish. But look at this, 69, 2 races. Look at his average finish, 15.5 at Sonoma in those 2 races. I think in this case, I got to go with Ryan Preece. I'm sorry, I'm going to be the rebel this time, and I am going to pick Ryan Preece and take him.
You're gonna get me on that one if he comes out ahead, because like I said, I said from the beginning he was one that could, but I just didn't have the faith to write it in pen.
Ryan Preece, average start 26.1, average finish 15.5. He's improving. Reddick is not.
I can tell you what I see, Sharon, there. You mentioned it. I think it is that, and we saw it with Bubba Wallace and Alex Bowman, of if you have to give up one spot to maintain a good finish. Whereas Tyler Reddick is one that will push the limits, push another car, and get himself in trouble and get a bad finish. That's where I think the difference comes in.
And the other thing is that on road courses, in the last 5 races on road course since 2022, they're not that far off, really, when you think about it. It's pretty head-to-head. The only figure here is since 2022, he's got 10. Priest hasn't been there as long. So I don't think that's a fair stat in this particular case. I think it's deceiving. He's only been there he hasn't been there since 2022. He's only been there since the last couple of years. I think his stats are pretty on par with Reddick in this case, and I'm going to go with Ryan Preece.
This is one of those rare times I go against the stats. Usually I favor them if I can, but this is one of the times where I'm going to go against it.
Okay, so what do you guys think? I mean, this is going to be...
All right, so wait, Taz, you're saying the stats, I show the stats favoring Reddick. You're saying you're going with Preece on that one?
No, I'm going Reddick, but the stats favored Preece over Reddick.
Yes, I agree. I think the stats favor Preece. You guys are going to go Reddick. I think Preece is going to upset Reddick. There's only one that we all agreed on. Only one matchup that we all agreed on.
That was Bowman.
The Bowman versus Ty Dillon. And God, if Ty Dillon makes it through this one, it's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, like you said, at that point, bet the bank on him because there's nothing you can't do, right?
And then on this one, and I'm really torn on this one, with the Nemechek versus Jones, it's 2-1. Jay and I both went with Nemechek. Taz, you took Jones, and my heart is there, bud. I really want to go with Jones. On the Priest versus Reddick, it's 2-1 again. This time it's Taz and Jay Huseman going with Reddick. I'm going to stay with Priest. I think Priest has the better stats there. On the Gibbs versus Smith, Jay and I both went with Gibbs. Smith you're the rebel here, Taz. You went with Smith. So
yeah, one thing I do want to point out quick is Sonoma is kind of like Pocono in terms of road course races.
Yes.
It brings out the underdog. Daniel Suarez, nobody had him winning a race at all that year for much of anything, maybe a super
And he did
speedway.
win.
And he came out to win at Sonoma out of nowhere. So this is, and obviously some of the stats have favored some of these underdog drivers, as we said, like with Ryan Preece. This is a Reddick type of deal because Reddick's got that act for road course racing, but Ryan Preece is not far off given his short track background. That kind of helps with that. And again, as you mentioned with the stats mentioned, Reddick is actually worse than Preece. So, I mean, I don't blame you there for that sense. So again, Sonoma for road courses is like the Pocono for oval.
Okay, I think you're right. I think that's a good analogy. The Pocono for ovals, or the Pocono for road courses. Yeah, I think that's a good analogy. Last chance to make any changes. If you want to make changes, are we sticking with this?
I am sticking with my picks, but I just looking at it being of a statement I made. Right now, we got 8 drivers left. Yep. Looking at the organizations, you have 1 Hendrick Motorsports, 1 Joe Gibbs Racing, Colleague Racing, Legacy Motor Club with 2, RFK with 1, 2311 with 1. You don't even have a Team Penske. And Front Row, yep, that's the last one. And Front Row.
Yeah.
So that tells you what this tournament is about. It is not about win. Yes, winning does advance you, but you take that shot, you miss, you end up in a pile in the back. These organizations just consistent of that. So that surprised me. As I said that earlier, and I started thinking, I was like, well, HMS only has 1. And I missed Ty Gibbs with Joe Gibbs. I thought they were the only powerhouse, but Joe Gibbs does have 1, and Hendrick has 1. That's 2 out of the 8 that we said, or I said anyway. I don't want to put that on y'all, but that the powerhouses aren't necessarily dominating. And that's where I didn't, well, because like 2311, right, I didn't go to who they're associated with. That's strictly by the organization, the main organization they're with. So I thought that was interesting.
Taz, you going to change any of your picks?
Oh no, because I'm feeling.
Oh no, he says.
Well, I've had Reddick go all the way challenging for the $1 million final on the original, so I'm sticking there, and that's my only original pick still standing. So so that one's a deadlock. As far as any other picks to change, I could flop to go back on Nemechek and Gibbs, but you know what? I like the underdog deal. I'm sticking Zane Smith on that one. And Jones, everyone puts him to the wall, and that's when he shines out and swinging most.
I'm going to stick with all of my picks. But yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And we talked about how disappointed we were after the first round. I know I was, as I watched each one of my drivers fall off. I kind of got disappointed, but it's still just as exciting in the third round, I think. And I think it's going to get even more exciting as we continue. So we're going to continue on then with this. We'll be back here for round 4 of the in-season challenge. And should we compare how we did at that point or not?
Yeah, we've already compared to how we've all done. Yeah, we're talking about having 1 driver left standing, or getting 5 out of 16 picks right in the first round. Like, yeah, let's not compare.
So Taz, you said only one of yours has moved on. How did you do in round 2 with your repicks?
So with my repicks in round 2, I had the Bowman over Bubba. I had Preece over Gregson, Reddick over Hocevar. So I only had 3 in the second round for repicks because I took Brad over Ty. That one's out the door. I took Stenhouse over Jones. That's out the door. I took Chase Elliott. That's out the door because Nemechek stole that one. And I took Busher over Smith and Dinger over Gibbs. And Dinger and Gibbs was basically the coin flipper that I'm honestly not upset that I lost to.
Yeah.
That's the one I had a tough time with because I originally had Gibbs going to the 4th round. Like I said, that's my one surviving. and I had him matched up against McDowell over Allmendinger, which was a tough call. Then I had to make it of, do I stand with Gibbs over Allmendinger? And I was like, well, that's just as tough.
Okay, we're in round 3. Who do you think are going to be the final 2 based on what we know in round 3?
For me, so after Sonoma, we go to Dover. I'm kind of going off of instinct here.
Okay.
Based off of my picks of what I'm feeling, I'm looking at Bowman against Jones. I would take Bowman over Jones, and that's nothing against Jones, but Hendrick has that deal for concrete tracks. I mean, Chase Elliott's won at both Dover and Nashville. Larson, I believe, has done the same as well, but Larson also did it in Chip Ganassi equipment as well. I have the feeling that if I look at it this way, Bowman versus Jones, Bowman's going for the $1 million, and I'm still sticking Reddick going for the $1 million too.
Oh, okay. Jay, who are your final 2?
Well, I had Blaney and Elliott, so they got big lines through them already. As we have the bracket now, and like you said, of who I've advanced, I had Gibbs in the final 4 on my original bracket. So as I have it, he would go against Reddick at Dover, and that was a tough one because originally I had it against Blaney, and I moved Blaney on. Now, if I have Reddick there, that one I think could be an interesting one to look at this point. I have Gibbs moved over. And on the other side, as Taz did at this point, Hendrick Motorsports, Alex Bowman. Again, as much as I've been bragging on and liking Legacy Motor Club and the storyline they got going in this tournament, we said it with Ty Dillon. At some point, that's got to run out. I'm thrilled they got one in the final 4. John Hunter Nemechek against Alex Bowman at Dover. Again, maybe the stats will maybe persuade me otherwise, and I'll go with maybe the underdog. But at this point, I would have to go with Bowman. So I got Bowman and then Gibbs. But Reddick is not a bad pick at this point. Again, if you're going to get hot at the right time through a $1 million tournament, it's a good time to get hot.
And I think we all agree Bowman's going to be one of the last 2.
Which means it's going to be not.
Yeah, there's so many unknown variables here. But Priest, I think, is going to be up against Bowman at the end. And it's for the reason that you've said all along, Jay. Priest has been there all year long. So I'm saying Priest versus Bowman.
Honestly, that's one of those, again, not just because he's one I had picked originally, but I think that capability, and I think that would show what this tournament is of. Again, it's not, I mean, the focus is on winning, and that's important. I get that, but that it highlights some drivers that, hey, we may not talk about week in and week out just because they are top 10, solid top 10s and consistent, which is why, unfortunately, they're in the playoff bubble battling for points because, again, they don't have that win to lock them in, but they're consistent. So they're right there in the mix with these guys that have wins.
Okay, guys, I think we'll call it a day. I thank you for being here. Do watch for more coming from Fan for Racing Radio. We've completed all of our previews at this point, and we'll be back on Monday for the reviews. And Sal is in rehab, but he said that he wants to do the reviews.
Oh, wow.
He's a little bit bored. And I think he was able to watch all the races, and he says, I'm prepared to talk about them. I want to do the previews. So we might even have a interview to do in there as well. We wish Sal the best and hope he continues with his recovery. But I wanted to let you know too, Tad, we'll be here for those reviews. And then on Monday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time, Jay and Chris and I are all going to talk about the hottest topics in the NASCAR world. So
we got a couple. We got a couple already. I don't know if you saw. We might have a new crew chief maybe back next year. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I haven't.
Some hinting around online. It's some great speculation possibilities that we can talk about.
So that's what Hot Topics is all about, is speculation, because we are all speculating there. Taz, have you heard that news?
Actually, shockingly, no. If there's been any
haven't
silly
either.
season news, it's only been Daniel Suarez. And the other, well, not really silly season news, but it's kind of happening in the middle of the season, is Formula One. I've seen a whole bunch of that in the last like week and a half or so. But
Yes.
that's another animal.
Oh, it is. It is. Okay, so look forward to our Hot Topic Sound Off on Monday night, 10 o'clock live stream. And Denver Thirst interacted with us quite a bit last week. So I hope
hopefully he's back. Yeah.
to continue to interact with us. And we hope some others will join us as well, as far as interacting with us throughout the show and giving us your thoughts on the topics that we're discussing. And I don't know.
Tell us how horrible our bracket picks are. They should have just named this the speculation bracket. I mean, come on now.
Well, we are looking at stats though, so I have to give us credit for looking at the stats, but sometimes you have to go with your intuition too.
Yeah.
And
how well have the stats done us?
Yeah, the stats haven't done us any favors. So there's something to be said for intuition as well.
Absolutely.
We also want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We do appreciate it. We have a lot of fun doing this, if you haven't already picked up on that. And we hope you have as much fun watching and kind of interacting with us. So stay tuned for more. We'll be back.
See ya.
Take care, everybody.